Fosun are starting to acknowledge the anger within the Wolves fan base with their ownership and clearly their decision to keep Jeff Shee as leader and the final decision maker of this great club, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, we know what's happened with Wolves the last 3 or 4 years. There's no point in to keep banging on about it. We've gone down, 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 sell to buy. Feels like Fosun have completely neglected the stadium. They haven't updated anything at the training ground. They've hiked up ticket prices and have used our amazing badge to promote little side quests like Wolves esports. We've had fan letters completely ignored. Jeff Shee just does controlled interviews within Wolves, the club, and on podcasts that he decides to go on, which is heavily edited, and he has to see it before it gets released. He stopped doing these weird Express and Star columns that he used to do, where he spoke about aliens and Football Manager a lot. Bizarre. And now fans have finally had enough. I think it's tipped a lot of fans over the edge with the position we're in this season at the bottom of the league. This video is not about what's going on the pitch so much. It's about our ownership and things like that. Now, you may have seen, which is quite controversial, the Taiwan flags have been floating around a lot on social media. Sutty, who I'm sure you don't mind me bringing him up, he's the person I first saw do this, and he actually got a physical flag at Chelsea away. I saw him there, I spoke to him there, and his message is not a political one. It's just to get their attention. I know you're not allowed political flags in football stadiums. You're just not, for obvious reasons. And I don't think Sutty doing this or Wolves fans doing this is to offend Chinese people. It's to get Fosun's attention, because I had to look into it, to be honest. I don't know why China and Taiwan don't get on politically, but they don't. So it's not a good look when you whack a Wolves badge on a Taiwan flag when you've got Chinese owners, and it's embarrassing for them. But it's got to this point because you can't get through to them. You never hear off the main bloke, Zhao. You hardly ever hear off Jeff Shee anymore. It's like they've buried their head in the sand and they don't want to listen to fans' concerns any longer. They do have to, I think it's literally a rule in the Premier League, they do have to speak to the Wolves Trust, the 1877 Trust. But I'm not that confident within the Trust. They had a beer with Jeff Shee in the summer. He brought them all a beer, the fan groups that did go and see him. He convinced them why we'd sold players and brought certain players in. He pulled the wool over their eyes, in my opinion. And I think they were happy coming out of that meeting. We all knew Jeff was talking out his backside when he said we had a good window, and we're seeing it now on the pitch. And we're bottom of the league and looking like we're going to get relegated unless there's a miracle. Now, as I said, Fosun don't seem to be interested, but they have now disabled comments on social media. So anytime they'd post anything to do with business, they would get bombarded by Wolves fans sharing Taiwan flags with the Wolves badge on, saying sell the club, get rid of Jeff Shee, etc., etc. So they've noticed. They've turned comments off on their social media, so Wolves fans can no longer do that unless they quote tweet the posts. Also, the Wolves matchday experience pre-Forest actually updated the policy on flags, because Sutty actually got a Taiwan Wolves flag into the South Bank. And fair play to Sutty, because he says he don't care if he gets banned, but they can't actually ban him because he didn't physically have the flag on him. He must have done it through other means. And it's controversial, but like I said a minute ago, it's got to this point because we're unhappy, and I'm led to believe, I wouldn't say this unless I 100% believed it just from hearing things behind the scenes, Fosun are not going anywhere. They are not looking to sell Wolves, especially if we go down, because we're going to plummet in value, and they won't sell us unless we're an established Premier League team. And even in then, I don't think they want to sell us because of their esports ventures and things like that. They won't. So they're here to stay. And also, even worse news, Jeff Shee's here to stay. That's what I'm hearing. Jeff Shee is here to stay. Can you believe he's here to stay? Do Fosun realise how bad some of these decisions have been over the last 3 or 4 years and what he's done to this club? We've gone from looking amazing, pushing for Europe and having plans to extend the stadium. Now they struggle to even paint the stadium and it looks tired. So they're seeing it. They're seeing the backlash. Now there's big talks. Man United coming up, Monday Night Football. I see a lot of fans discussing whether to boycott the game, protests outside the stadium. There's all things being planned. And I think the only way we're going to get Fosun's attention to make any sort of change or look to sell or look to change their ways and actually start pumping money in again, because since COVID, as we know, they've kind of zipped up the money bags and just gone to sell to buy. Yes, they spent money in the summer, 120 million, but we also received around the same sort of amount for the likes of Cunha and Ait Nouri, etc., etc. So they're not pumping money in like there was at first, which Wolves fans don't want to see us just pump money in ridiculously. We're realists. We just want to see a bit more ambition, planning and backing. And with Jeff Shee at the helm, that can't happen, because 10 years ago, the bloke didn't know what football was and he hardly knew anything about football. And now, when you listen to him talk in interviews in the summer, he had very high say in recruitment and was part of the people in the leadership team talking about players to get in. It's like me, who has never watched NFL, a full game of NFL, American football. It's like me buying an NFL team and appointing myself to help with transfers and tactics and shit like that. It just wouldn't work, would it? At first, with Jeff Shee, it worked well because he had Laurie Dalrymple, Kevin Farwell, he had the big strong links with George Mendes, and they got very lucky in appointing Nuno in their second year as owners. And since then, because he's so arrogant, he thinks all that was down to him. And he also thought the Nuno era was down to luck, because he thinks Nuno got lucky in those 3-year spell where we had great success. Now it's time. All Wolves fans want is either Jeff Shee replaced if Fosun don't sell, but I'm also hearing if they were to replace Jeff Shee, which they won't, it'd just be for another Chinese person who would be the CEO or chairman. So it'd be someone who ain't got a clue about football, so we may as well keep Jeff because at least he's got 8 years experience. Or they want them to sell, which is not going to happen either, as I just alluded to. So dark times ahead for this football club when we go down, because we're going to be on a small budget. They're not going to want to spend more than they bring in, and we're going to lose 100 million straight away. And it's going to be very, very tough to get out of the Premier League. Some people are comparing this to Sheffield Wednesday. I don't think it'll ever get that bad just because of the amount of money Fosun have got as a huge business. Like, we'll never get to that point, I don't think. But I think it'll be a tedious watch, and we probably will be milling in and around mid-table in the Championship for a long time, unless they smash a lot of money into it like they did when they first come in and brought the likes of Jota, Neves, etc., and somehow get us back up and completely change their ways. Jeff Shee talks about this big reset recently when we got Rob Edwards in. We've heard it all before. I feel sorry for Rob Edwards. Like, none of this is aimed at him. None of this is really aimed at the new players, because it's not their fault they got brought, is it? They're just not good enough. So, for me personally, as long as Jeff Shee's at the helm, nothing's going to change. So, controversial with the Taiwan flags protest, they're going to continue. And all we want, Fosun, if anyone's watching this, I don't know, if Jeff Shee, if you're watching this, give us a plan, talk to us, tell us what the actual vision is. Because there's never no vision. It's always reactionary. Sack the manager, get a new man in, sell our star players, hope the new person we get in is good, and we don't know. Sometimes they work, most of the time they don't, as we've seen recently. We need a plan, we need clear messaging, and we need you to get a feeling that you actually care about Wolves as a football club more than you care about Wolves as an esports team. So yeah, it's been swirling around on social media and online and on the forums and on the radio about Fosun as owners. And don't get me wrong, I just want to end on this because I don't want it to be all doom and gloom. That period under Nuno is the best time I've ever had in my life, and we reached heights I never thought we would as a club. But since then, it's gone down. So I do thank Fosun and Jeff for that. Well, not so much Jeff, Fosun for having the money. But we're never going to get those times again. And they were the only Chinese owners left, I believe. All the rest failed because something weird happened in the Chinese government around COVID, didn't it? And all the Chinese money they had that Super League, didn't they? Around 2016-17 era. That all collapsed, so they lost interest in football, the Chinese culture, I guess. But bit of a rambling video today. But I just wanted to talk about all the Taiwan flag issues and the protest issues, and watch your space, because I think sooner rather than later, folks are going to have to stand up and take notice, and Jeff's going to have to really front up and not just hide behind people and talk to little fan groups secretly. Cheers, everyone. Please comment your thoughts down below.